Good morning, good morning. I am Katie Johnson, and I live in the U.S. in Wisconsin, and I think I came on a minute early, so I apologize. Actually, I'll apologize again because you may hear some noises. Like I said, I live in Wisconsin, which is in the northern part of the state, and we just got some snow last night, so my husband is going to be on the tractor outside plowing it. I told him we needed to go make a snowman after he was done because it's one of those wet snows that's going to pack really nice. All right, so welcome very much. If you have looked at the schedule and thought you were going to be listening to Sandra, she is the one that's on the schedule, but she was not able to come in during her scheduled time. And so I'm just filling in for her today. Like I said, my name's Katie Johnson, and I will actually be on again tomorrow during my own time slot. And then Sandra will come on later when when she is able to get back on. So the project that I'm going to use today is a wonderful stamp set called Petals of Beauty, which you're going to love. It's really pretty. But the actual thing I want to talk about for my tool tip, because we're all doing tool tips this time, is embossing folders. So we do have this new embossing folder as well, and I want to show you some ideas for using that. All right, I'm going to put the embossing folder away though, because we've got to lead into it and the tip. We're going to start with the stamp set itself. Now, leave some comments, please, and tell me if you have purchased any of the stamps or dies since November, because November is when Stampin' Up! Transitioned to these new packages. And I know people have mixed feelings about them. Number one, they're just different, and so you have to find a new way of dealing with them. Second, the size is different, so you have to, if you had them stacked up on a shelf like this, they're taller, so you have to find a new way to configure your shelves, maybe. And then the other thing is, and I love this, look at, they're so skinny. This is awesome. And guys, this is just a stamp set, but this is a stamp set and a set of dies. So it's really going to be a time saver. Yay. But then I can't read anything on the spine. So like I say, every time that something is new, there's always just an adjustment period. And each of us will find our own way for how to deal with that. But I thought for funsies and maybe for useful, you might find it useful to see how other people are choosing to do things. So I'm going to show you what I do with my set, as well as show you the set that I'm going to use. All right, when you get them, they each come in their own package. Even if you're buying a bundle, you're going to get a separate envelope for the dies and a separate envelope for the stamp set. Couple of things I want to point out to you about this packaging right away. For starters, you are going to maybe go, oh my gosh, this is awesome, because the die set actually shows you the pictures. That is so great for putting things away and knowing if you have them all without counting. I mean, you always can go down and say, oh, there's 12 of them in here, but to be able to get a visual and then a visual on what you're putting back in the envelope, that's helpful for me. The other thing I will point out is that the stamp set tells you the name, Petals of Beauty stamp set. This one says Stampin' Cut and Emboss, dies, and then way down here it tells you the name of the die set. And I don't know what the rationale was for that, but you know, without complaining about it, just saying, oh, well, that's useful. I know if I see the name up there, I know I'm looking at stamps. I know if I don't see the name, I can go down and figure out the name. It's not going to matter for me. I told you sometimes it's useful to see how other people do things. I want to keep them in the same package. I only have one plastic out here. I'm going to use the other one for something else. If there's a matching set of dies and stamps, I want them together. So I'm going to put them like this, back to back with their pictures, and I'm going to put them back into the container. Front and back of the container, I want to be able to look at it this way, not through the closure. So I'm going to put them in a bin and be able to flip through the bin. I want to be able to see the name. So that's how I'm going to put my two original pieces in. Now, when you get these things, your product, your stamps and your dies, they are sandwiched in between. Oh, I should have shown you this before I stuck it back in here. So it comes open like this, and your product, the dies or the stamps, they come sandwiched inside of here. But that's not my chosen way of dealing things. I want to be able to have this package in my hand, not guess what the things look like. I'm going to see my product, and this is important. This is for inventory control. So here's my dies. I'm going to slip those in. My dies, I have them mounted on magnet. I know that some people keep a little magnetic dish in their work area and put the dies in there so they don't lose them. And I'm thinking, that's an extra step. This is a magnet. I'll just put them back on here so I don't lose them. So I keep them on here, but there's nothing covering them. There's nothing protective. You saw how easy that slipped away because you you can leave a comment. I'm sure this has happened to you as well, but sometimes these little dies, they get a little bent, right? So then they might not stick quite so flat onto the sheet, and so there's just a risk of losing these dies. So I'm going to not put them on the side with the closure because I don't want them to get messed up when I'm closing it. So they're going to slip in on the side that tells me the name of the bundle. And now I can read the name of the bundle up there. And then on the other side, I'm going to put my stamps. And notice I have the two pieces of plastic that came with it, the thin one back here and the more rigid one, which has the flat side of the stamp on it. Before I did anything, I just put my ink down on the whole card the way it came in the package and stamped it thing. Then I covered it up with clear tape and glued it together, and I put it on a piece of colored sheet, intentionally not white, so that when I have this in my package, I can see that color around there, and I know I'm looking at the stamps. And I don't know how well this is showing up on the camera, but in real life, let me pull this out, it is really obvious to me that I have these stamps in here, but these stamps are missing. They're somewhere else because they're on a block someplace. So inventory control, yay. That was your little helpful lesson on that. Oh, I should point out one more thing. I'll come back to this in a minute. This is beautiful stamps, but there's no sentiment in here, so be prepared for supplementing with a sentiment. And I got you covered on that. All right, so the dies, taking a quick look at the dies and what they do. Oh, I'm going to do something else here. Look at this. For funsies again, I made myself notes of where I am in the process. I did my little intro, and now I'm on to packaging and inventory control. Nope, I did that one too. Now I'm on to the stamp bundle. I just thought that it's for me to help me know where I am, but you know, for you, it lets you track where I am. Okay, so the dies, when you have, where did I do with them? I put them away in their own envelope, not the sentiment envelope. When you have a big open die like this, it's a framelit, so it's intended to stamp a stamped image. This die set has a lot of framelits, but it also has a mix of standalone dies as part of the set. So these are the framelits. They're going to stamp the two big flowers. This is a little trio of flowers. It stamps them as a group. This is the center part of the flower, and then this is what it looks like when you actually go ahead and stamp on it. This is a two-step stamp set. So here's your background color, and then here's the extra color that you're going to put on it. And don't worry, you're not going to watch me do all this. I have, look at this, I have all my parts ready to go. So this is you won't be watching me do the actual stamping part, but it's really pretty. And then you can do the same thing with that center of the flower. You might just want to die cut it out of yellow or die cut it out of black, but it does have the stamping, so you can use it as a framelit that way if you want. All right, let's take a look at those extra dies that come with this set. So these are the extra dies. Very pretty, right? Very pretty. The problem, well, no, here, let me show what else is on here. There is a little bit of a problem to pay attention to. Here's the leaves that go with it. And again, this is a standalone leaf. This could be a standalone leaf. It can also layer on top of here. And then these two will cut out these two leaves. And then this is just another big standalone solid leaf, which, can you see the little embossing line in there? That's kind of fun also. I'm going to flip over and do something real quick. Yay, hi Lori. Oh good, thank you. I'm glad you can hear me. Oh no, that's a different video that I did this morning. Giggle. All right, we'll just go back here. Yeah, so let's take a look at these things right there, because you can see that they're not perfectly lined up. So there is no symmetry that I was able to find between these beautiful extra layer things and that pink thing that goes underneath it. It's so pretty, but I think it's just supposed to look kind of fluffy. And also, this is not a mistake. See how it's open right here? That's just the way the die cuts it. So you could layer these, you could layer that one on top of here, lots of different ways that you could do things. Speaking of layering, I said this fits on top of there, but here's something cool. If you like if you like handing a card to somebody and having them look at it and then have them look at it a second time and then ask you a question and say, how'd you do that? Because if I run my finger across here, there's no raised area. I did not glue the green onto the darker green onto the lighter green. I did not do that. Instead, what I did was I took the die and I die cut that. I die cut that out of this. So now there's a hole in this piece. And then I came back and die cut that again out of darker green and slipped it into the hole. It's a technique called inlay. And it's kind of fun. Again, I like it when people look at your work and say, how'd you do that? And then again, you know me and my brain, anytime you have something that's got open holes, always look at whatever shapes you're left over with, because, you know, you could maybe use those bits and bobs for something. Put them together and make your own flower, turn them all vertical and do them orange and make candle flames, or make a log fire, or turn them sideways and turn them into a school of fish. I don't know, there's things you could do with it. The point is that when you have holes, you're going to have pieces that came out of the holes. Find a way to use them. Okay, so plan. I always like to start with what is the plan and then move into execution of the plan. So here's the colors that I chose for today. I'm doing leaves, so I'm using Old Olive, and then I'm doing some flowers. So I chose, for contrast, I've got Lemon Lolly, I've got Flirty, oh, that's Flirty Flamingo. No wonder that did not turn out the way. I thought I was grabbing Petal Pink, but I did not. So this is Flirty Flamingo, which works okay because it's the one I used, and then this is Calypso Coral. And then the plan, again, because I always like to have a plan in mind of where I'm going with it. And sometimes I just play. Again, leave me some comments and let me know when you start out to work with a project, when you pull out your die set and your stamp set and say, okay, I'm going to play, do you just let your brain go free flow, or do you like lay out and say, here's what I want to do? So my plan is this. I want to have my base card. It's going to be vertical. I want to have a sentiment that's going to be off to the side. And then I want to have a focal point. Super, super simple. And then you can always layer it up and add more parts to it. I'm going to put a flower or two. I'm going to put some leaves. And I have had people who say, whoa, you make a whole book for all your layouts? You keep all those things? Yes, I do. And helpful hint, if you think that's useful and decide to try it, this is copy paper, not our construction, or not our cardstock, because this is much thinner. And if I used our cardstock in here, the book would be too thick. So that is the general plan of where I'm going. All right, we've talked about the layout and the colors. And now let's go back to the sentiment and the fact that there is no sentiment in this set. So what I chose to use, and you've heard a couple of people mention this already, this is the product of the month for January. The product of the month concept is that it's a reward for making a purchase over a certain amount. So if your order's over $75, suddenly the website, the shopping site, will offer you the opportunity to buy this if you want, and you get this for only $5. Oh my gosh, you guys, for $5, this is a no-brainer. It's time to figure out if you need any ink refills, or go back and see what kind of papers you need, or stock up on adhesives and envelopes or something. This is an absolutely gorgeous set. I love the font, I love the big splash in your face with the words, and I like the little block extra things that you can say on there. It's pretty generic. It's got a hello, a thank you, a birthday, you're on my mind, sending love, you can do anything. This is just for $5. $75 is a good investment. So anyway, this is what I'm using. I'm using the hello because look how big this happy birthday is. It's gonna, if I use that happy birthday, it would pretty much stretch across my card, and I don't have room for it on this design. So that's the what I wanted to say about product of the month. I also want to talk about the sale for January, because every month is going to have a product of the month. This month, the sale is, it's bonus days. You need $75 to qualify for product of the month, but every $75 also gets you a bonus coupon. So this is like the perfect time to get that set if you're interested, or just stock up on something. And I also wanted to mention at this point, since I'm talking incentives, we always do a PDF for anyone who does place an order. And the PDF basically has a picture of the projects, and this one, because we're all doing tooltips, mine is going to be on this embossing folder, It's going to have our tooltip in it, and then it'll have links to the YouTube video. Because again, I don't know if you've paid attention to Facebook, but Facebook is now taking our lives, and they only last for 30 days on the website. So if you're coming back and trying to look at things from November, you won't see them on the website. But anybody who does get the PDF, we'll always upload them to YouTube. You'll have all the YouTube links on that PDF. Okay, let's talk about the plan. I'm going to start out with a whole bunch of finished cards because, again, I've got everything ready to go. The only reason I'm going to actually have you watch me do this is because I want to talk about adhesives, because there's a couple of extra things to know about that as well. I got to move this out of the way because I'm going to bring my die cut machine in here for a minute and it'll mess things up. All right, we are done with that. We are now talking tool strip and card construction, and this is 6 out of 7. Cool. I'm in 15 minutes and I'm almost done. Oh my goodness. So here is a finished card that would have this general plan, right? Got my sentiment, got my stuff, and this is the product from here. But it's kind of plain. This is just a flat background over here. So let's put an emboss in. Let's emboss it. Here is the embossing. It's pretty thick, but as soon as you add an embossed piece behind it, you can't stamp on it for the word. And if you stamp the word first, well, then the word's going to look all goofy and be hard to read. So the solution there is to put a strip of paper across, like I put my orange strip of paper across, and then add your parts. And again, you should be thinking, what adhesive is she using to hold those things on? So I could put a strip across like that, cover up my pretty embossing, or I could just cut that embossed piece and trim it down and leave a blank piece of a blank space to stamp my sentiment. But then I need an extra piece of white paper behind to stamp the sentiment on. Oh, here's something else you can do with embossing folders. I forgot, you can add color to embossing folders as well. That's a fun tool technique. Not the one I was going to do today. Here's what I want to talk about today. Partial embossing, where I have only caught part of my paper. Now, I shifted my sentiment so it's down at the bottom instead of in the middle. We're going to come back in a minute and say, how can I get that blank space in the middle? But let's talk about how I got it down here on the bottom first. So let me pull in the parts that would go through my machine. Actually, I don't need to bring the whole die cut machine in, because I can show you here and you will totally understand the concept. So here's my embossing folder, and here is a blank piece of paper. Thought I had a blank piece of paper. We'll find a blank piece of paper that will work. This is just talking. This is not seeing the finished product because everything is ready to go. So when you're holding papers, one tip, with an embossing folder like this that has vertical lines. I remember my geometry teacher in 10th grade saying, the human eye can tell something that's 1 degree off. So if you don't line up the edge of the paper exactly with these stripes, people are going to know, unless you wanted it to be crooked. So Stampin' Up! Puts this handy line on here. Perfect for putting your paper in and lining it up on the line. Drop a thumbs up right now in the comments and say, awesome tip, Katie. Thanks for sharing that. The second thing is, I do like the fact that this is a 6x6 folder, so I can stick my paper in, but I can get vertical stripes or horizontal stripes, whatever I want. But if I put my paper in, let's see, this is not the right, this is what I would do for die cutting, right? This is a thick folder. These two things go away. When you're die cutting, you need to bring in this plate, which has a number on it someplace, the number 4 plate. So a normal sandwich would be your base, your folder with the paper in it, suggested that you turn it for the fold to be going through the machine first. Don't need this either, that's for die cutting. You're replacing it with this one. And by the way, I don't know if you've ever done this, the thicknesses are a little bit different. This one is a little thicker than your acrylic, and the acrylic, combination of the acrylic and this extra shim here are thicker than this one. So this alone is thinner than these two together, but thicker than either of these two, if that makes sense. This is the right one to use for embossing folders. If I cover it up and put it through, the entire thing gets embossed. I'm going to rotate it sideways because you can do that. It's just suggested that the fold goes in first. If I set the edge of this plate number 4 off the edge of the paper, so now when it goes through the machine will emboss where it's thickest. The machine will emboss for this part, but the machine won't emboss for that part. So that's how I got the bottom down here with just a blank area on it. Okay, that's nice. I did have to shift my flowers and had to shift my where I placed my sentiment. How do I get it in the middle if I want it in the middle? Well, then you just run it through twice. You put your plate number 4 up here and run it through the machine, and this part will get embossed. And then you turn the whole thing around and put your plate number 4 down here and run it through a second time. And then you will end up with something that looks like this. You can see how it's embossed on the top and the bottom, but not in the middle where I want to put my sentiment. Couple of extra things to share, because this is all about tips right now. You will notice that the edge is not a clean edge down here. It kind of fades, and that's because this is not a sharp 90, I can't do it with my hands, but you understand, it's not a sharp 90-degree corner here. It's kind of beveled a little bit, and so it's a gradual increase of pressure as it goes through the machine. I am fine with that on my project. And then the other thing I want to share with you about doing the embossing is that this is a really thick set of indentations. You have embossing folders. If you have embossing folders, you know that some of the embossing is all the same height, and for some folders there are parts of the embossing that's deeper and parts of it that's less deep, and this is one of those folders, which means it's putting extra stress on the paper. So here's the first one I did, and as you look at this, you're going to go, oh, what is wrong with that paper? It completely tore the paper. Yes, it did completely tear the paper. It totally messed it up because it's putting so much pressure on it. But there is a solution to that, and the solution to that is right here, something else that Stampin' Up carries. This is our mini spritzers. I just put water in here, and I'm not going to do it because I don't want to mess up all my finished projects, but you just, I only did 3 of them, right? Just don't saturate the paper. That'll really mess it up, but get that paper a little bit wet and then slip it in your embossing folder and run it through, and trust me, you will be going, wow, that is the best tip ever, because you can do that with any embossing folder, not just these extra thick ones. All right, so this is a finished project, but let's just make it and talk adhesives here for just a minute, because I did say that this is an extra thick embossing folder. So adhesives, we will start with our tape runner. I'm still on construction. Okay. I'm going to bring in some glue dots, and I want to bring in some dimensionals. And I'm going to bring in my liquid glue. All right, so I know everybody has their favorites, and again, you work with what you want, but sometimes there's a right adhesive for the right job. This, because it is really extra thick, I want to use my liquid glue on this one. I'm going to put it on the green base, and for this one I can actually, usually I start from the top and work down and don't adhere anything to the card base until it's ready to go. But for this one, I'm going to put my green layer on to start with. Kind of get a crisp fold on here. And you'll notice that I cut my my leaves out of that already because it's going to be hidden. Nobody's going to see it. I personally love my tape runner because it's quick. So I'm just going to hit these spots right here, catch the edge. I don't think I need that again. The rest of them are not going to use that one. I like it because it's quick and easy. However, when I get to this, I need something that's going to adhere the top and bottom parts, and my tape runner So two things. My tape runner is sticky enough that when I run it across here and it catches some of it but not all of it, then it kind of ripped my paper. So here's where I'm going to use my liquid glue, and here's where I'm also going to caution you on this embossing folder. I feel like there is a right and wrong side, but there's definitely a difference between the two sides. So before you throw your adhesive on, pay attention to which side you want up. Alright, so I'm going to use my liquid glue along here, and you probably can't tell on the camera, but it's bumping. I can feel my hand going up and down. It's like going over those strips they put on parking lots when they want you to slow down. Okay, so then this is going to get centered on here, and I did make one mistake in terms of order of operations, because I usually always stamp before I glue things together, but this is a photopolymer stamp, so I will be able to see through it, and it should just be fine. All right, I chose to use the same color for my stamped sentiment to kind of coordinate with the background piece and to coordinate with the leaves, and I went it off to the side, still using that template that I showed you when I started. Also, it's not one of those stamps that is like straight across, so if I'd been a little bit crooked with that, you wouldn't have known that it was crooked. Now I want to start adhering things on. So I'm going to bring in two of the leaves. Get this one out of the way because this is the template I'm following. I'm going to have one big flower and two little flowers, and I see that I didn't stamp the sentiment or the flower center on, so we'll do that real quickly. My memento pad is a little juicy, so I just want to stamp these ahead of time so that black memento has a chance to dry before I touch it with my fingers and maybe get things smudgy. Oops, get that out of the way. Okay, so I've got two little flowers and a big flower to adhere and the leaves. Order of operations on this one is going to be leaves first. There's a right and wrong way to do all of these. And, I can't remember who. Someone earlier today talked about the adhesive sheets. That would have been the right way for me to have die cut these with the adhesive sheet, but I didn't. If I'm really good, I could come back and add just a little hint. I'm going to do these two differently from each other. Just a little hint of the liquid glue in a few places because I like my leaves to be fluffy. So I'm going to bring this over here and let this one kind of hang down below my sentiment. Hold it for just a second to give that glue a chance to grab. And for this one, I guess I lied. I actually am going to come back because you can use your tape runner on this one too. And again, what I'm doing is I'm trying to add some adhesive in some of these places that are a little bit thicker, but I like my leaves fluffy, so I'm just adding it on in a few critical places. And if I get adhesive off the side, I'm going to check it before I adhere it to my project. Use my fingernail, pull that in, hope that showed up on camera. Then I'm going to layer this other one in here. Making sure these are big leaves, guys, so you want to angle it in a way that it doesn't like fall off the edge of the card. All right, now I've got the flowers to go on, and I've got a mess over here with my stems. So here's where I'm going to put the little ones on to cover it up. Brand new roll of glue dots. When they come off, they come with this side with the glue dots on them. It's always a mess for me, so I like to make things neater. I'm going to start by just grabbing one glue dot right there, put my paper through, get rid of the extra. This is just going to be like a belt to hold it shut. Okay, now I don't have that little thing falling all over the place. Okay, let's grab some glue dots. Glue dots are the choice here because they are a little bit flexible and they will fit into the up and down space between all those stems. And then you can probably see where I'm going with this, but for the big flower, I'm going to come back and use the dimensionals because it's sitting up on many different layers. But you can see by adding these two little flowers along here, that covers up the mess with the stems. Now I need to, let's see, this is kind of grabby. Add a couple of dimensionals in here. For a standard project, if I was using dimensionals for the just the purpose of adhesive, I wouldn't need so many, but because it's going over all these extra layers, I do want 3, and for balance I want 3 also. I got a little smudge on there. Not a problem. I can just kind of twist this till I cover up that smudge. I'm going to bling it up just a little bit here. So I have lots. I started storing my bling in some vertical things too that I can flip through. And these are those holographic resin dots. They've been around for a long time. I think they came out in May of last year. They're just so pretty. They're high. I have to put a little extra postage or padding in my envelope, but gosh, they have this little hint of green, and they're just perfect for so many things with flowers. And even though I tell myself that I don't want to use them because they have some height to them, I end up pulling them out and using them anyway. And the red lines that you can see on my card, is that showing up on them? Well, not because my hands are in the way. That's showing up on, yeah, I put lines across because it actually comes in 3 different sizes as well. So this card is almost done. I'm going to do one more thing to bling it up. But that is the plan that came together from the original idea for how to put these parts together. Okay, there's one more little thing, because I do like my sparkle, guys. I like people to look at my project and then say, ooh, and look at it one more time. So Wink of Stella, just to cover the center black parts on here. So I hope that you're getting some inspiration from all these things, inspiration about cool things to do with cards. I hope that you are learning some ideas from the tool tips that we're sharing. And a reminder, the quick reminders here at the end. January is bonus days. The product of the month this month is, like, I would put in an order just to get that. They aren't all going to be that way. The last one was designer paper, and if you liked that designer paper, go for it. We all have a lot of designer paper, but I don't know about you. This is an amazing, amazing stamp set. And then again, if you are inclined to put in an order, make sure that you talk with your own demonstrator. Okay, hey, this was my quick little run-in and step-in for Sandra. She will be coming in later in the week with her project, but I will be back tomorrow with my time slot and my other project. So I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.